future doesn't have to be like that. If you step on in to the secret kindergarten, showing you that your young children hold the key to understanding the universe, understanding the self, and therefore they hold the key to human freedom. Your child is the gatekeeper. Only you can open the gate, and the secret kindergarten is going to show you how.
Hello, welcome back to the secret kindergarten. I'm your host, Gino, and you're tuning into Revolution.radio, Studio A. And what was I going to say? You can check out the podcast for children on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, Rumble, Odysee, Bitchute, all those things. And there are over 100 episodes specifically for young children. But good for the whole family. Today's episode is the Secret Kindergarten Grown-Ups Edition, and we're continuing the series on the television tells no vision. And the more I go down the TV rabbit hole, the more horrified I am. So this is just information for families, information for people in charge of environments that have televisions that young children can have access to and watch. And as always, I don't have children myself, but I was a child, and I worked as an early childhood educator for 5 years while going through my awakening to the truth. I studied at university for 1 year, until at university it became purely woke indoctrination, and so I left. And I felt like my study was not complete. And this is me getting that research out of my system. I've always wanted to do a deep dive on television, and in today's show we're going to look at some things from Theosophy, the wisdom religion, which my journey, starting as an early childhood teacher, my path led me towards Theosophy, and there's still a lot in Theosophy that I haven't quite reconciled with, or reconciled an understanding of. And part of this series is actually going to hopefully give me that resolve and ask some important questions, and hopefully give you guys some things to think about the TV and about what we are supposed to be, how we are supposed to behave, and what we are supposed to become as individuals and as a whole big group of 8 billion people. So starting off, we're looking at, this installment is titled "The TV Takes Away the Soul's Capacity for Charity." So we're going to be talking about charity. And I feel like talking a lot off the script this morning, so I'm going to. Charity. Well, when I was a teacher, I noticed that the biggest problem is in the early learning centers, and I'd say this is in the Western world, that there is what they call an obfuscation, whether it be conscious or unconscious, but the right to stick up for yourself and to defend yourself has been obfuscated, and that is the dark goal of the early learning centers, is to prevent human beings from understanding that it is okay to stick up for yourself. And because that's such a big problem, I have been focusing on that. That has been the main driver. And all the while, I've lost, on the other side of the coin, is care, kindness, love, charity, these more feminine things, And I am on a path of figuring out the balance of both, and what that looks like, and what that means in terms of pedagogy, in terms of child development. I want to figure it out. I want to get the framework down completely watertight so people can use this as a reference, so all the kids can grow up in the right way. Okay, so here we go. We are starting with a look at the book Theosophy, the Wisdom Religion. And this is printed by the Theosophy Trust, and you can go on to www.theosophytrust.org, and there are loads of books online. So I'm going to read Friends, the chapter Friends or Enemies in the Future. This is interesting. The fundamental doctrines of Theosophy are of no value unless they are applied to daily life. To the extent to which this application goes, they become living truths, quite different from intellectual expressions of doctrine. The mere intellectual grasp may result in spiritual pride, while the living doctrine becomes an entity through the mystic power of the human soul. Many great minds have dwelt on this. St. Paul wrote, as I take a sip of my coffee, I just got to do that, otherwise it's going to get really cold. It's already cold. Okay, St. Paul wrote, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass, or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing." The voice of silence, expressing the views of the highest schools of occultism, asks us to step out of the sunlight into the shade so as to make more room for others, and declares that those whom we help in this life will help us in our next one. Excuse me. It's just got to be done. All right. Buttresses to these are the doctrines of karma and reincarnation, and those are the two big lessons in Theosophy, the focus points. The first shows that we must reap what we sow, and the second that we come back in the company of those with whom we lived and acted in other lives. St. Paul was in complete accord with all other occultists, and his expressions above given must be viewed in the light Theosophy throws on all similar writings. Contrasted with charity, which is love of our fellows, are all the possible virtues, I'm just going to highlight that, are all the possible virtues and acquirements. These are all nothing if charity be absent. Why? Because they die with the death of the uncharitable person. Their value is naught, and that being is reborn without friend and without capacity. This is of the highest importance to the earnest theosophist, who may be making the mistake of obtaining intellectual benefits, but remains uncharitable. The fact that we are now working in the theosophical movement means that we did so in other lives, must do so again, and still more important, that those who are now with us will be reincarnated in our company on our next rebirth. So that's why annoying people are so perpetually annoying. Oh, I'm just kidding. Shall those whom we now know, or whom we are destined to know before this life ends, be our friends or enemies, our aiders or obstructors in that coming life? And what will make them hostile or friendly to us then? Not what we shall say or do and for them in the future life. For no man becomes your friend in a present life by reason of present acts alone. He was your friend, or you his, before in a previous life. Your present acts but revive the old friendship, renew the ancient obligation. Was he your enemy before? He will be now, even though you do him service now. For these tendencies last always more than 3 lives. They will be more and still more our aids if we increase the bond of friendship of today by charity. Their tendency to enmity will be 1/3 lessened in every life if we persist in kindness, in love, in charity now. And that charity is not a gift of money, but charitable thought for every weakness, to every failure. Our future friends or enemies, then, are those who are with us and to be with us in the present. If they are those who now seem inimical, we make a grave mistake and only put off the day of reconciliation 3 more lives if we allow ourselves today to be deficient in charity for them. We are annoyed and hindered by those who actively oppose, as well as others whose mere looks, temperament, and unconscious action fret and disturb us. Our code of justice to ourselves, often but petty personality, incites us to rebuke them, to criticize, to attack. It is a mistake for us to so act. Could we but glance ahead to the next life? To next life, we would see these for whom we now have but scant charity crossing the plane of that life with ourselves and ever in our way, always hiding the light from us. But change our present attitude, and that new life to come would show these bores and partial enemies and obstructors helping us, aiding our every effort. For karma may give them, then, greater opportunities than ourselves and better capacity. Is any theosophist who reflects on this so foolish as to continue now, if he has the power to alter himself, a course that will breed a crop of thorns for his next life's reaping? We should continue our charity and kindness to our friends whom it is easy to wish to help. But for those whom we naturally dislike, who are our bores now, we ought to take especial pains to aid and carefully toward them cultivate a feeling of love and charity. This adds interest to our karmic investment. The opposite course, as surely as sun rises and water runs downhill, strikes interest from the account and enters a heavy item on the wrong side of life's ledger. And especially should the whole theosophical organization act on the lines laid down by St. Paul and the voice of silence. For karmic tendency is an unswerving law. It compels us to go on in this movement of thought and doctrine. It will bring back to reincarnation all in it now. Sentiment cannot move the law 1 inch, and though that emotion might seek to rid us of the presence of these men and women, we presently do not fancy or approve, and there are many such in our ranks for every one. The law will place us again in company with friendly tendency increased or hostile feeling diminished. Just as we now create the one or prevent the other, it was the aim of the founders of the society to arouse tendency for future friendship. It ought to be the object of all our members. What will you have in the future life? Enemies or friends? Signed W.Q. Judge, written in January 1893. Now, do you think a lot has changed in 130 odd years? I say yes, a lot has changed. Does that mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater? No. But one question I have is, what of narcissism and psychopathy and Machiavellianism, this dark triad personality types? Should we just continually be kind to the psychopath? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's what it means. Were there as many narcissists in 1893 in civilized society than there are now? I don't know. But this is kind of the point of this episode. There's a line in the sand somewhere, right? Where you should be protecting yourself versus just complete foolish being kind of nice to everyone forever and ever. I don't know if that's what this is saying. Anyway, that's the reflection there. But where is your line in the sand? What do you have the patience for? And what will you not put up with? If the voice of silence, expressing the views of the highest schools of occultism, asks us to step out of the sunlight and into the shade so as to make more room for others, and declares that those whom we help in this life will help us in our next one, well, let's stay to the topic, the TV. Then what of watching the TV? This is the thing. The TV is probably going to help us figure this out, this line in the sand. We are allowing the TV to throw shade on us. Okay, so we've already had a couple of installments. We've learnt a little bit about what the TV does to the brains and the hearts. The TV is throwing shade on us, and we're talking the kids, right? We are not acting on this concept. If we're watching TV, we're not actually going out and putting sunlight on other people and putting ourselves into the shade. We're not practicing charity. We're not practicing this kindness and this love for one another. So we do need to do that. How much of that we need to do? Well, we got to figure that out. But the TV is not helping there. Okay? We're not practicing on this concept. We are just practicing, actually. If we're just sitting and watching the TV, we're practicing acquiescence, which is the biggest problem of our time. Just allowing things to happen. And actually, being kind or being charitable, even if that means being nice to annoying people at a minimum, that's not acquiescence. That's actually an action. And that's practicing charity. Watching the TV does not promote that quality. So we're not working on this. The kids aren't working on it while they're watching TV. Okay. So that part of the brain is not developing. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's have a look. I just found this anonymous PDF called Television, the Pros and Cons. So it's completely anonymous, uncited, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to read some of it. ... But television has its good side. It can be entertaining and educational, and can open up new worlds for kids, giving them a chance to travel the globe, learn about different cultures, and gain exposures to ideas they may never encounter in their own community. Shows with a pro-social message can have a positive effect on kids' behavior. Current research is discovering that individuals can employ television to create what is termed a parasocial or faux relationship with characters from their favorite television shows and movies as a way of deflecting feelings of loneliness and social deprivation. Just as an individual would spend time with a real person, sharing opinions and thoughts, pseudo-relationships are formed with TV characters by becoming personally invested in their lives as if they were a close friend, so that the individual can satiate the human desire to form meaningful relationships and establish themselves in society. When an individual is not able to participate in interactions with real people, they are less likely to indicate feelings of loneliness when watching their favorite TV show. Furthermore, when an event such as a fight or argument disrupts a personal relationship, watching a favorite TV show is able to create a cushion and prevent the individual from experiencing reduced self-esteem and feelings of inadequacy that can often accompany the perceived threat. By providing a temporary substitute for acceptance and belonging that is experienced through social relationships, TV is helping to relieve feelings of depression and loneliness when those relationships are not available. This benefit is considered a positive consequence of watching television, as it can contract the psychological damage that is caused by isolation from social relationships. People in the truth movement, well, do you find some resonance with that? Just for us with social media, it's quite lonely knowing what's really going on in the world and being isolated from society in your views. And we find an acceptance and belonging, hopefully, online, don't we? And so that's a slightly more advanced version of this temporary substitute. Social media, we actually are connecting with real people, just not in our immediate space. So there we go. The TV is a substitute for the lack of charity that people are receiving in their lives. It's a charity replacement, considering that charity is love for one another. There we go. That was a dramatic pause there, or a pensive pause. Is that what you call it? It's like the end of the paragraph, a little bit of reflection there. All right. Moving along to... Okay, I might have to move forward from this, but The Plug-in Drug. Television, Children and the Family. A book written by Marie Winn in 1977. It's going to have very conservative leanings, this one. And what I've taken from this is an old experiment that was done called the Denver No Television Experiment. Okay, I'm just going to read through this because we're going to get some results of what happens with no television. And we'll just see. Let's go. In the spring of 1974, an article appeared on the television and radio page of the Sunday Denver Post inviting families with young children to volunteer for an informal experiment in which they would turn off their television sets entirely for a period of time no shorter than a month. Over 100 responses expressing interest in the experiment were received. A number of letter writers, though intrigued, admitted that they couldn't, for one reason or another, actually eliminate television. Among their reasons: I'm afraid that if I give up television, the kids would take up a whole bunch more of my time, and I don't have time to spare. Yeah, valid. My husband doesn't share my opinion of television viewing. When he's home, he watches almost continually. Valid point. Oh, just kidding. If it weren't for Mr. Rogers and the electric company, I'd never get dinner ready or the entrance steps vacuumed. My child has a broken leg and needs to watch television. Maybe I'll try it next summer. Others explained that they had already eliminated television. Still others wished to volunteer but had no small children in the house or had children younger than 2. Don't put the TV on for kids under 2. That's what we've discovered. That's the biggest rule so far. Okay? Doesn't matter who's saying that, kids, if they have kids or not. The kids under 2, no TV, please. That's the great work. Seriously. Since the greatest use of television is made by parents of young children, and since family styles are often established when children are young, it had been decided to limit the experiment to families with at least one young child at home. questionnaires about family background and television use, as well as suggestions for preparing children for the no television period and for dealing with problems that might arise, were sent to 25 families. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to try and move forward. Of the 25 families, 15 competed in the experiment and sent in their diaries and questionnaires. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Why did they volunteer in the first place? Here are some of the answers. My own TV watching has become too much. I use it as a substitute for everything. We rarely do things we mean to do. Television is just too much of a habit. I'd like the children to do something other than watch TV. I'd like them to be aware of how much TV they watch and how many more exciting things there are to do. I'd like to eliminate some of the hassle connected with television in our family, and also to have the children explore other means of entertaining themselves. To help our family discover alternative forms of time structuring. I really have trouble communicating with my 9-year-old. He always has his nose in the television. Even the neighbours notice it. They'll say, "Andy, it's time to go home for supper now," and he'll sit there glued to the set. He watches about 4 or 5 hours a day, and it really worries me. How did the children whose parents volunteered for the no television experiment react to the idea of temporary elimination? Okay, let's have a look at some of their responses. A number of children voiced anger and resentment at their parents for depriving them of the television. For example, Michael, 6.5 years old, was upset that he would miss the Saturday cartoons, reports one mother. But I reminded him that he had seen nothing but reruns for the past couple of months. He admitted that was true and didn't object to the experiment after that. When we presented the no television experiment as a "we are doing it" fact for our 4 children, their reaction was one of anger toward the lady who had suggested the experiment in the article. I found the article torn and crushed on the table the next day. I think it was a group effort. The first week, here we go. Most of the families reported experiencing some difficulties during the first day of the experiment, some of them comparing that period to withdrawal from drugs or alcohol. In all cases, the parents and children reported that as time went on, they missed television less and less. The first week was hard for all of us, especially the kids and me. They sort of hung around and didn't know what to do with themselves. I suggested reading, which we did a lot of, but still time was long. Sometimes. After the first week, it began getting easier and easier for all of us. By the end of the first month, we really didn't miss TV at all, wrote a mother whose family engaged in the no television experiment for 2 months. A 9-year-old boy told an interviewer, "Sometimes the first few days after Dad unplugged the set, I'd just go and look at it, even though it was off. I really missed watching. Then as the summer went on, I stopped thinking about TV so much." At the beginning, the children kept asking to watch TV. They really seemed to miss it, and we began to wonder whether the whole thing wasn't too hard on them. But gradually they found other things to do that we thought were a lot better than watching television. During the withdrawal period, a number of children reported feeling disoriented and weird. "It just didn't seem like summer," said a 10-year-old girl. A 9-year-old told an interviewer, "I'd keep going to somebody's house and I wanted to know what day of the week it was. I always know what day it is from what programs are on." Among the changes in family life noted by parents in their diaries were the following. Okay. More interaction with adults. Kathy had a girlfriend over and they sat around with the adults in the evening, listening and joining in the conversation. We enjoyed that and realized that in the past, kids always watched TV when we had company. A more peaceful atmosphere in the home. I've enjoyed the quietness of life without TV. I was thinking that maybe after the experiment we ought to find another place for the set besides the family room. There seems to be so much more time. Perhaps part of it is that there isn't that frantic, hurrying sound of the TV always in the background. I would say that not having to adjust between watching TV and playing made for a more restful atmosphere in the home. I'd noticed that the coming out of the television spell and adjusting to a play situation was often a lengthy process full of antagonism between children. A greater feeling of closeness as a family. The children and I became closer because we did more things together. The family, I feel, is pulling together tighter as a result of no TV. The difference has been enormous. We feel we're a family again, united by common experiences and bonds. We discovered many things about each other during the experiment, hidden talents and interests. We did more things together as a family during the experiment. We wanted that and we got that. More help by children in the household. I used to let the kids watch TV after dinner because their favourite programs were on then and it seemed too mean to deprive them. Then I had to do the dishes alone. Now they have time to help. We do a lot of talking while doing dishes. It's a very comfortable sort of time when it's easy to talk. Maybe the soapy water makes us all relax. Betty helped Dad with yard work and then helped him wash the truck. Both children cleaned their rooms more thoroughly than usual and spent a lot of time alphabetizing the books in their bookcase and arranging the things on their desk. More outdoor play. In the past, we couldn't get the kids outside if my husband held open the door and I booted them out. Now they're going out in all sorts of weather with no television to keep them inside. We notice there's a lot more outdoor play, even when the weather isn't great. Changes in bedtime meals. Changes in bedtime and meals. We found we were all going to bed much earlier. Dinners are longer now since the children don't leave to watch their programs. Meal times are given to general conversation instead of arguments about how soon they could get up and watch TV. And here we go. Children play together more. The children seem to deal with each other more without the TV. When there's nothing to do, they are likely to play with each other, really do things together. The girls are apt to regular play, organised games now that the TV is out. They played together before, but now they are more likely to play games with rules, board games. And the older one is more willing to play with the younger, whereas before it was easier to just watch TV and not take extra trouble of explaining the rules of a game to a younger sister. More reading. Although the children have always enjoyed reading, we noticed a definite increase in the number of books read during the no television period. Joey always reads a lot. The difference is that he'll start reading in the middle of the afternoon and read through the time to go to bed. What a legend! He wouldn't have done that with the TV available. And we also discovered that reading increases comprehension and understanding. And I guess to be charitable, you have to have a sense of understanding for others, to endure them. Better relations between parents. My husband misses the sports events, but I enjoy talking to him. Personally, I find I can tolerate Saturday housework as a working mother a lot better when I don't see my husband loafing near the TV. More activities. There's a definite increase in activities on the part of the children. We have more time for games, crafts, model building, and reading. We did several alternate activities this summer, planted a large vegetable garden, various arts and crafts. Among the problems related to no television mentioned by parents and children are these. Favourite programs. I've missed not watching Masterpiece Theatre, we had a ritual of watching it on Sundays. Here we go. Peer relations. I asked my friend Clark to come and sleep over, and he said, "What are we going to do at your house? Sit around and listen to the radio?" I'm ashamed to ask anybody over. It just feels weird because all the other kids have TV. Interesting, right? No, we're just putting this all in the frame of like relating to other people and charity and the TV's effect. But the people that are still watching the TV, do they want anything to do with the kids that don't? And punishment. No TV was always our most effective threat. Of course, we couldn't use it during the experiment. What effect did a period without television have on the subsequent viewing habits of the families involved in the experiment? In follow-up interviews, it was learned that in spite of favourable changes noted during the no television period by all the families taking part in the experiment, none of them chose to continue living without television. However, the parents seemed to look back on the no television period with nostalgia and regard their return to television viewing with some regret. For example, all 4 kids were fighting over what to watch. My husband and I looked at each other and realized how nice the summer had been without TV. Turning off the TV for the summer was relatively simple. The kids just accepted the fact with few exceptions noted in the diary. Our problems began when we turned it back on. Our 8-year-old, the family addict, went back to sneaking programs at times he wasn't supposed to watch. The kids went back to watching cartoons in the morning before school, and that took care of those nice family breakfasts we had all enjoyed. Some of the children themselves expressed a certain ambivalence about their resumption of a heavy viewing schedule. It's really harder to do other things when the TV is around. I just want to watch it. During the experiment, I got my mind off TV so I didn't keep thinking about it. Then I had more fun. I had to kick the habit. Okay, so what was gathered from the Denver no television experiment of 1974? That was a long time ago. Children had more interaction with adults. There was a more peaceful atmosphere in the home. There was a greater feeling of closeness as a family. More help by children in the household. More outdoor play, changes in bedtime and meals, more reading, better relations between parents, more activities. So there was more play and more positive interactions between other human beings. Play for young children is the way that their brains grow and the way that they learn. Interaction between others, well, that's where they learn to find their boundaries and to stick up for themselves and to be charitable. Okay? So maybe we don't know precisely what that balance looks like between telling people no and allowing people to be annoying or whatever they might be. But nevertheless, the TV is hindering that dynamic or the growth of that dynamic. And the ones that still watch TV, well, they don't want to play with people that don't have the TV. So they're not as charitable. Because of the TV, literally. And what we have learnt, even though there is very little literature on this, is that these studies on the TV can be translated to technology. social media, gaming, these things. So for all intents and purposes, when we talk about TV in this series, we are also talking about technology, social media, iPad, all you unschoolers out there. And I'm just presenting this information. That's all I'm doing. I'm presenting information as me. Okay, I don't have kids. This is just information for you to decide, because what is your line in the sand in terms of charity and, not charity? But it's good to find out what is not good about TV and tech if you want to create a better world. All right, moving along. I was rushing so much that now I'm early. All right, now we're going to look at a book that we have already visited in the past. I can't remember if I've visited it here in the TV series, but the book is Patience, The Path to Victory by Charles Belmonte from 1994. And the part of this chapter is called Patience and Charity. The soul of Christian patience is charity. Only love can make us endure and overcome sadness for the loss or delay of a good. And this love should result in confidence as children of God. We must be charitable and patient with the persons we deal with daily. Sometimes they may have defects, even big sins, but a sick person is not yet a corpse ready for the cemetery. Let us cure him by giving him the appropriate treatment. We have in the church all the medicine we need to cure any sickness. And I just want to step out and say, well, that's hinting at dealing with people, right? We must cure him by giving him the appropriate treatment. So this whole Christian turning the other cheek, what does that look like? Well, it doesn't mean just allowing yourself to get beaten up and ill-treated. This thing of this charity and patience, these qualities are hinting at, from this episode today, are hinting at, we should try to make the world better in our dealings with people. So if people are being bad, we should be giving of them of our time and our energy to make things right. And that might mean sticking up for yourself. That might mean showing them what they did is wrong. If you look at, I'm just stepped out. If you look at like martial artists and, boxers and these kind of people that are really into combat and fighting, well, if they're walking down the street and a bully comes up that isn't a martial artist and pushes them, shoves them, well, how does that affect them? Those people don't even do anything about it. They just think they don't even think it's funny. They're just like, oh, do you really want to try me? And they're not even affected at all. They're being shoved and punched, 100 times a day, going to their dojo or whatever and getting on the mat or whatever they do, right? Then a bully comes up and does a hard shoulder barge on them. They just think it's absolutely nothing. It doesn't even shake them. And what would a martial artist do in a moment of that, being charitable and patient with that person they're dealing with? Maybe it's someone in their workplace that does that doesn't know that they do all these martial arts and stuff. Well, the martial artist is going to have patience and charity toward that person. So there's an element of like resilience, right, is what I'm trying to say. An element of being able to deal with life's challenges without them affecting you so much that you become ineffective in your life and your work and your goals and what you're trying to do. And this being a series on the TV takes away these opportunities, as well as damaging our heart, right? We've already discovered that. And the heart is connected to these things. And the heart is connected to the mind. It affects our mind development, our brain development. It stops the kids from being able to go out and play and learn from other people and grow their charity and their patience and learn about sticking up for themselves and putting up with annoying behaviors from other people, not being so touchy to these things. All right, so going back to the reading, we must apply the treatment with charity and patience, otherwise it will not attain its effect. If we take away patience, charity withers away. There is no true charity without a patience that endures everything. When these two virtues are found together, everything is endured joyfully. Charity accomplishes everything. Without it, there's quote-unquote nothing doing. So there you go. If you don't have charity, you ain't got nothing. And that makes sense in the sense that how are you going to achieve things if you aren't able to endure other people? Endure the haters. That sort of thing. All right. Love, then, is the secret of your life. Love. Suffer gladly. Toughen up your soul. Invigorate your will. Link your self-surrender tightly to the will of God. And for this, and with this, you will be effective. And that was a quote by Saint Jose Maria Escriva. And this is by a quote from Saint Gregory the Great. Patience must be shown toward loved ones. Without patience, love for them can turn into the worst kind of hatred. That is why charity is kind. Charity leads us to endure the weaknesses of others with patience. Thus, it also leads us to love them with unceasing kindness. Let all bitterness, anger, indignation, commotion, and blasphemy be put away from you with all malice, because you can put away outward bitterness, yet maintain malice. All right, St. Jose Maria Escriva is back, saying it is sometimes a duty to feel annoyed, sometimes a weakness, but let it last only for a few minutes, and always with charity, with affection. There you go. And this is how to admonish the impatient and the patient. The impatient must be warned that their impatience is leading them to act as if not knowing what they are doing, only to feel regret later when they realize what they have done. Tell them that, under the impulse of their impatience, they have behaved other than they are. In their agitation, they have nullified the good they may have done. Charity is lost when one is impatient. Charity is patient. Therefore, when patience is lacking, there is no charity. And since patience is the nurse of knowledge, the impatient man cannot acquire knowledge. The less patient a man proves to be, the less instructed does he show himself to be. An impatient man cannot truly learn what is good. By Saint Gregory the Great. All right. So, that's it. So the TV robs children of the opportunity to connect with others. And this connecting with others and play and stuff that the kids do with other people builds patience. Patience is required to be charitable. And being charitable is being loving of our one another's, our fellow people. And charity is goes hand in hand with love and knowledge. These are all the things we've discovered in this episode of the TV series. Love and knowledge are heart-based, as discovered in previous installments of this series. TV damages our heart and in turn damages our patience, charity, love, and knowledge. But I'd say there's more research required. We've only really just brushed over. And that's the end of that. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you at the next one with more research on the TV. Love you all. Bye.